Excelsior!
All right, everybody, it's time for our final look at Famous Battles, one of the biggest sections of the 1990 Marvel trading card set. We've gone through heroes, we've gone through villains, we've looked at some of the rookies, we've talked about several important fights in the Marvel Universe up to this point. We're going to wrap it up now, and then it's on to the rest of the card set. But for now, let's wrap up our Famous Battles.
Now, Brett and I both know this one. This is the most recent 1990.
Yeah, this was like unfolding as the cards were being printed, probably.
And this was the build-up to Infinity Gauntlet.
Yep, this is the start of it, where Thanos had been gone for a while, and he comes back, and the first person really...
Wow, this predates Infinity Gauntlet?
Yeah. Just a little bit.
By a year.
Jim Starlin with artist Ron Lim, who would both work on the Infinity Gauntlet. This was when he clearly had got permission for the Infinity Gauntlet the next year. Mm-hmm. He's working on Silver Surfer, so he's like, time to put the things in place. In his time in the 70s, Starlin wrote a bunch of Thanos fights, and the last time he was in it, he had worshipped death enough that he had then been killed and turned into a statue. He was dead, gone, totally. Mm-hmm. Then death brings him back to life so he can kill half of the universe, because she's like, there's overpopulation, you got to kill half of the universe. And Silver Surfer's like, oh shit, this guy's back, Thanos, oh fuck.
Yeah, and Thanos immediately like stops Surfer in his tracks, and before Surfer can get back and warn anyone, there's a scene in Infinity Gauntlet number 1 or 2 where Surfer just crashes through the ceiling of Doctor Strange's Sanctum Sanctorum.
Yep. And he beats the crap out of him. Just beats him so easy.
And it's Surfer trying to get back to warn everyone, like, Thanos is back. He's after the Infinity Gems, which I don't know what those are, but it seems bad. And by the time anyone can really know what's going on, Thanos has already won. By the time they really get a wind of what's happening, Thanos already has all the gems. Mm-hmm. And this is told through these Silver Surfer comics, through the Thanos Quest, and through Infinity Gauntlet. I can't recommend the omnibus of this enough, the Infinity Gauntlet omnibus. It collects all of this stuff in one huge thing. So if you want to get ahead of Infinity War, whatever those movies are going to be about, that thing's going to be $80, but it is everything.
It is in one
comic.
And as the card says on the back, it ends this... quick story ends with him tricking Thanos. Thanos tricking him at first to thinking he's not even around anymore. Like Silver Surfer thinks, "Oh, I beat Thanos again," and then Thanos is like, "No, you didn't," and I'm going to go on my Thanos quest. Then later, Silver Surfer realizes he's alive, and that's when Infinity Gauntlet 1 begins. So I just did a superhero spotlight on this guy, but this is Apocalypse, who was basically the Thanos for X Factor. So X Factor is the original X-Men on their own team, the 5 original X-Men, and they need a giant threat to face, a world-ending threat. And they introduced the first mutant, Apocalypse, who can shapeshift, can gene splice, is seemingly unkillable, and is screwing with them for the first 2 years of the X Factor series. And this was finally the big fight that ended it all in X Factor 25. And now I'm looking at the back now. I'm realizing I was identifying Marvel Girl in those pictures as Dazzler, but that mask is stupid. It looks like the Dazzler mask, doesn't it? But also, at this point, Archangel had been transformed. He was no longer Angel. He had been transformed into Archangel to be the Horseman of Death for Apocalypse. But he turned on his brainwashing, and they all fought him, and they finally beat him. And it was the first time they beat Apocalypse, though he skulks away to cause trouble another day. But this was them getting revenge for what he had done to Archangel. And again, I would say this is definitely a Mark Bagley, I think.
Yeah, it looks like it.
Now, this one takes place right before the Fall of the Mutants, so I had to look it up because this seemed to be way more important to them. I don't know why. Like, Days of Future Past doesn't have a card in this.
Yeah, that's really strange.
That is weird.
And this is the only Brotherhood of Evil Mutants-esque fight that gets a card in this thing.
Hey, look where it takes place.
San Francisco.
So
we're recording people.
So in the mid-'80s, one of the many X-Men reboots was to move them to San Francisco, and they're living in Jessica Drew's house, who at the time wasn't Spider-Woman, and might have been a Skrull. I'm not sure when she became a Skrull, but the important point is that the Mutant Registration Act is on, and so a bunch of bad guys technically work for the government. These Brotherhood of Evil Mutants become the Freedom Force.
They pull a Patriot Act and name it something
Yep.
cute, and it's actually like it actually takes some of your rights away.
Yeah.
But Freedom Force is like, we're good guys. Who could be evil? Called the Freedom Force.
Can you name all the Freedom Force here?
Spiral, Pyro.
You got Spiral, Pyro. I believe that's Avalanche.
That's
you got
Avalanche.
Destiny and
That looks like Spider-Woman.
But it's
no one named the blob. No one named the blob.
Yeah, maybe Spider-Woman gets mind control.
Yeah,
at
Blob
some
isn't
point?
even in the lineup, but he's the most prominent character in the picture.
He's
Well,
also
he's the
the
most
one-
prominent character in any picture.
He's the one who turns the tide in the fight and beats them. He beats the X-Men so bad that Storm quits the team, and Nightcrawler rejoins for this fight. But they mess up whole entire blocks of San Francisco in the mid '80s, and the only reason the X-Men are saved is because the Freedom Force is told by the San Francisco police that they need a federal warrant if they want to arrest these X-Men, and so the Freedom Force walks away.
Oh, goddamn
busted
rules.
by bureaucracy.
Hey, look at that one.
If you remember watching the X-Men animated series in the first season, this fight pretty much plays out. And so, Sabretooth he wasn't created as a Wolverine enemy, but he was created by Chris Claremont and just said, yeah, he should fight Wolverine. They're pretty much the same. At the time, they were even teasing that he would be the father of Wolverine. And this definitely brought up some more of their connections. But the thing was that
And they'd go on to fight back to back.
so
Throughout history.
Yeah.
So Sabretooth would attack Wolverine once a year and beat the shit out of him and then leave. But this was the first time he had help from the X-Men against Sabretooth. As it says here, he almost kills Psylocke in the big fight. And that's when Wolverine gets his berserker rage and attacks Sabretooth, and in classic non-committal
Sabretooth
form.
does eventually kill Psylocke, though, right?
Well, actually, they eventually make out.
Hey.
But,
I can't believe I confused the two.
Thin
so
line.
often.
But in classic superhero fights that can't end conclusively, they both land in the water, and Wolverine's the only one to get out, and Sabretooth would live to fight another day.
This is important to note. This is right before not only Wolverine's redesigned and back in his yellow costume, but that's Sabretooth's original costume before he gets the one you would know from the cartoon.
I do love all that hair on his old
It's
outfit.
so Liberace. I love it. Yeah.
The X-Men and the
X-Men
Savage
versus
Land.
the Savage Land.
Yeah. This Marvel fanfare bit here, I just was not super
Is
into it.
this the premiere of the Savage Land?
No. The Savage Lands has existed before
Yeah, it's
that.
about them. Like I'm not as familiar, but it's generally when they go to the Savage Land, it's because they're trying to go find Sauron and what Sauron's probably doing to the people down there.
So Sauron is a scientist non-mutant who then loved dinosaurs and transformed into a dinosaur.
Yeah.
And loved Tolkien so much that he named himself Sauron after the villain of Lord of the
Wait,
Rings.
really?
That's why he names himself Sauron.
Yeah.
And how many of these
And there's-
characters can you name? On
Well,
the,
that's Sauron in the middle.
Yeah, it's Sauron in the middle, but
After
the
that,
rest,
who gives a shit?
the Savage, I seriously don't recognize any of the
They're
Savage
just
Lands
Tonto and Robin Williams
They're just
character from
goons.
Baron
They're
Munchausen.
just goons to
Hired
be beat
goons.
up.
But
Slippy.
they're just people transformed by Sauron as well.
Yeah.
This takes me back to one of my favorite panels of Spider-Man fighting Sauron, where Sauron tells him I've made up this new genetic technique that can transform cells and make people into dinosaurs. And Spider-Man says, with that technology, you could cure cancer in a day. And then he says, I don't want to do that. I want to make people dinosaurs. But yeah, the Savage Land, the X-Men have gone to the Savage Land a bit. On the animated series,
We spent a lot of time.
a whole
down there.
season was spent where Xavier and Magneto were trapped there, and it's a place where it fucks with their mutant powers. It's underneath Antarctica. There's a bunch of wild vibranium there. It's a crazy place.
Yep.
So this is the first time Iron Man
This
fought
is the biggest
Titanium
loser
Man.
in
Yeah.
in a headline of one of the famous battles.
If you're going to put Iron versus Titanium, I mean,
Titanium Man.
Yes, and Titanium Man's not cool. He's just another one of those I'm a guy who's rich and can have a suit too and
Seems like
fight him.
someone says Iron Man doesn't have enough famous battles.
Yes, and of course it's one of those ones that doesn't. In 1990, it was pretty much dated of Titanium Man's from Soviet Union. In Soviet Union, Iron Man Titanium.
Yeah.
Though this was also around the time in '65 where Steve Ditko is an uncredited guy in Iron Man pantheon because it was Larry Lieber and Stan Lee who created Iron Man in his classic gray metal suit. But that costume, which I believe first appeared or was very new at the time of this fight, that costume was designed by Steve Ditko. So the good Iron Man costume, the red and yellow mix, that was Steve Ditko's, not Larry Lieber or Jack Kirby. Usually the guys who created most Marvel stuff back then. But this was just, it's prominent because it's their first fight. But honestly, like Titanium Man,
Nobody cares.
when the USSR fell, so did he.
This is beautiful artwork.
Yeah. Now this one isn't even like specifically any fight. It's just their history as enemies.
It's just encapsulating their rivalry throughout time, and Loki is constantly trying to get the better of Thor by trickery, and Odin is constantly like, "You guys stop fighting or take it outside."
Boys.
Yeah, and like, Daddy needs a drink. Like, it's just
when you can see the family dynamic there too, which I really like, and basically this scene is at the end of the first Thor film.
Yeah.
Like, and if you told me they could make a Rainbow Bridge in gay heaven fight work in a movie, never believe it. Never believe it.
I do love this art though. It gets
so
everything.
Good.
Rainbow Bridge, Odin, space Vikings, literal space in the background. It's just like
standing on the clouds.
It's great.
Standing on that Bifrost, Loki literally shooting lightning like a cartoonish lightning bolt.
Lightning bolt.
It's great.
Yeah.
So the first Kree-Skrull War, this was one of the biggest cross storylines in Marvel history to that point. As you can see on the backs, it was almost 12 issues long, it was 8 issues long, spanned 71 to 72. It was an Avengers epic where it introduced the Kree and the Skrulls as nemesis, though I guess they'd been kind of built up like that in their first appearances in Fantastic Four. But this is when their fight came to Earth, and the classic Avengers team, like you've got, this is when Hawkeye was Goliath, so that's the one bit where you're like, oh, that's stupid. Why'd they give Hawkeye growing powers? And get rid of his arrows? But otherwise, you got Vision, you got Cap, you got Thor, you got Iron Man. I'm saddened that Captain Marvel is not in this card because he was a very important part of this fight. Yeah. And that's Ronan the Accuser in the background, the main villain of Guardians of the Galaxy. And so, they were trying to invade Earth, and they were just, the Kree and Skrull were fighting over Earth. And the way it was won was thanks to their stupid sidekick of the Avengers, Rick Jones, who had... the High Evolutionary, the giant computer head that controls the Kree society.
That's Supreme War.
Yeah, that's Supreme.
High Evolutionary is the.
I'm gonna go.
Oh, sorry. The Supreme Intelligence, not the High Evolutionary. Sorry, but anyway, so he used.
I didn't know this.
He used his special abilities to advance Rick Jones to the height of human evolution, which gave him brain powers that united everybody's brain and stopped the war.
The internet.
And yes,
it worked out.
And so then
no one fought ever again.
And he immediately lost his powers. Now they do get Captain Marvel on the back there, but I mean, he was key to the fight. I really wish he was in the thing there. But anyway.
Yeah, but a big cosmic thing that in a time when the Avengers didn't get pulled into cosmic stuff all that often, I don't think. So.
Yeah, it was a big, big deal, and it would be just the beginning of the giant cosmic stuff. 70s were really about the cosmic expansion of the Marvel Universe. I mean, you had stuff like Surfer or Thor who did have space stuff, but the 70s saw, Captain Marvel take the lead, Thanos, all the stuff on Jupiter's moon, all that stuff. Yeah.
And I believe that is it, isn't it?
Is that the last card? Oh my goodness,
I believe it is.
Yes.
Yeah, all right. Well, that wraps up our look at the famous battles. There's a lot. Thanks for watching along. We've still got a bit more of this set to go. There's, I think, 162 cards, and we only got to 123. So check out the playlist, watch along, and read up on the heroes, the villains, and all that other good stuff. We've still got more to come. There's team pictures, go to a little bit of the team dynamics. There's some stuff about famous issues of this around this era, how much they may or may not still be worth. We still got a lot to talk about. So check out that YouTube channel, subscribe, watch some more stuff. We got live streams on Twitch. We got podcasts everywhere else.